Hey, how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel and welcome back to Cenozoic Park in Planet Zoo, where we're continuing our build of this kind of de-extinction focused park using modded extinct animals that we find on the Nexus. Before we get started, just a quick disclaimer, as always for these specific videos, modding is not officially supported by the developers of the game Frontier. If you do so, please do so at your own discretion. There are plenty of tutorials out there, many by Leaf, who is the modding person for Planet Zoo. If there was to be one, Leaf has some great resources out there on how to mod, and even if you want to make your own, how to get into that. So definitely do check out Leaf's work. Along with a few other people as well. Leaf and the gang, I guess, put out the new Outback Pack mod, which is great. Lots of new Australian and kind of like Australasian animals. Lots of new, really nice props. Lots of new nice items as well. Some of which you'll see me use in today's episodes, like some really brilliant corrugated rooftops, for example. All really fantastic pieces and fantastic animals too. So if you're interested in those mods, do check that out. In today's episode, we're going to be building a habitat for some Colombian mammoths. Colombian mammoths are kind of the, well, I would say less famous. They've become a bit more famous in recent years, but they're the less famous cousin of the woolly mammoth. And they're less famous primarily because they're not really that woolly at all. They're very much the same kind of skin with like sparse hair type appearance of a modern elephant. That sentence was horrendously worded, but you know what I mean. They look a lot more like modern elephants, Indian elephants, or African elephants, where they have grey skin, probably grey. I mean, we don't know for sure, with those sparse hairs all over, but likely no fur at all. They're also much larger than woolly mammoths. Really big elephants. Approaching kind of the upper echelons of land mammal size. Not quite the biggest land mammal. That honor belongs to another elephant species called Paleoxodon. If I'm saying that right. I know some people say it in different ways, but that is another elephant species from China, I believe, which just gets huge, like even bigger than Paraceratherium, which is this ancient rhino, which people used to think that was kind of where that was the largest land mammal to ever live. But yeah, now we have these elephant species which grow, equally or even larger. The mod itself, let me just quickly check, was actually made by Nicholas Leinrider and Leaf. Nicholas Leinrider, of course, also makes plenty of the other prop mods that we use. I believe also was quite heavily involved with the Outback pack that we've just used today, and all these other prop packs that we're using. At some point, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it for this video, but I'm going to put links to all the mods I've been using. But just because right now I'm still kind of adding more as I go, I think I'll wait either another episode, another 2 episodes, until I kind of get an idea for what I'm going to use in the park. I'll make a bit of a master list. I'll put it in the comments, and hopefully I'll remember to go back and put it in the previous video descriptions as well. And then you guys can have a look and, see which ones you want to use if you do choose to use them. But yeah, here is a little bit of a viewing platform, and this doesn't get 100% finished today, actually. As you can see in the background, you can see the that kind of operations area, the entry point where the boat is. You can see off to the right is where the woolly rhinoceros habitat was. And this viewing platform is against this cliff, and I would like it to be kind of a starting point where it's going to eventually have a bridge that crosses over, leads to another viewing platform that leads to another building, and kind of gives this kind of second layer of traversal where staff can walk kind of between habitats via the bridges and stuff, so they can actually go right over them, look at the animals, make sure they're okay, that sort of stuff, and just keep a very close eye on them, really. Lots of detail work in this habitat and in this build today. I'm trying to really get more involved with the detail work, because with these mods there's some really just great pieces that really lend themselves to detail work. Like, for example, as you're seeing on screen, we're using some of the little pieces from the exhibit prop pack, which takes out a lot of the materials that are already in the game but are within exhibits and puts them out free for us to use, and just like I put them in little pieces, little bits and pieces here and there, like kind of what you see out there near the entrance of that viewing platform, the little grasses and the logs and the branches and all those little bits and pieces, and I think it ends up looking really good and really detailed without putting in an awful lot of like time and effort, I suppose. I mean, obviously I'm still putting in some time and effort, but it just makes it a much more streamlined process and a lot more kind of intuitive and more fun to do, really. Here we've outlined the habitat for the Colombian mammoth. Once again, I am a little bit sad that I didn't choose a much larger map to work with. I love how this map looks and that's why I chose it, but it's a shame that it's not any bigger, because I think it would look so much better if we had more space to work with. And you know, like, I could give the mammoths a much larger habitat too, because these are likely going to be the biggest animals we have in the park, and they're quite an iconic species, so I really wanted to give them as big a space as we could. This very much fulfills their needs. I'm basing the need requirements, the space requirements of the African elephants in game, because they're a bit bigger than them, but you know, so they meet those requirements and have a bit more space to work with as well. I think it's double, so definitely plenty of space, but in reality I would have liked it to be more. Sticking to this very utilitarian look for a lot of the elements of the habitat that are not natural, so kind of the fences, the enrichment, the shelters, all those bits. I'm gonna stick with quite utilitarian kind of vibe, lots of wood, lots of like just things that work functionally. They don't have to look the best, because obviously this is not a guest facing park. This is meant to be kind of like a hypothetical like nature reserve almost for these extinct animals. And while we're building the bits of the habitat here, and you'll see in a bit there's a lot of like detailed rock work and stuff I'm doing here, which I'm really happy with. Let's talk a little bit about the Colombian mammoth itself, because it's quite an interesting species, because there's a bit of a chance that it's actually a hybrid species that originated somewhere, you know, like a long time ago, nearly 500,000 years ago, when woolly mammoth and another type of mammoths called steppe mammoths actually hybridized and produced this species. And we don't know much about how they came about really, but they're a really unique looking mammoth. They take a lot of the really iconic elements of kind of woolly mammoths, like, you know, those long spiraling tusks, and then like a lot of the more iconic elements of today's elephants, like just the hairlessness and the color, and almost potentially even the big ears and things. And yeah, they merged the two into such a unique looking animal. Like I said, it has become a bit more well known in recent years because it was featured on the TV series Primeval in quite a heavy capacity in like a few different episodes, and I remember really loving its depiction on that show. It was really, really cool and very refreshing to see a large herbivore taken out of that kind of gentle giant stereotype and shown off in such an interesting and unique way. And I thought it was a really cool addition and featured really well in all the episodes, so really liked it there. But yeah, it's a really cool mammoth species. We're going to include a few more other extinct elephant species. There are a lot of really interesting ones out there. Platybelodon will feature later in the series, which is my favorite extinct elephant. It's a bit of a, I like to call it the Scoopy Boy, because it's just got a mass August just laughing in the background. I call it the Scoopy Boy because it's got a big shovel for a bottom jaw, essentially. Like, it's got a big flat trunk on top of a bottom jaw that's as long as the trunk, with these two big teeth on the bottom, and people used to think it might have scooped up algae on the water surface and swamps. More modern interpretation says that it probably used that to kind of like scrape the bark off trees, or similar things to that. So we're definitely featuring that animal. There's a brilliant mod of it on the Nexus as well. I can't remember who made it. Let me check. Giorno Pizza and Johnny, both of them, made the Platybelodon, so it will feature later on. I'm tempted to give it like a swampy habitat to harken to that kind of more retro idea of what it would have been, what its lifestyle would have been like, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this won't be the only elephant in the park for sure. So as far as what animals I'm going to feature besides these guys, there's going to be quite a lot of recently extinct species I want to feature. For example, the dodo and the thylacine. Both are really interesting choices, I think. The thylacine especially, I know, has been getting a bit of PR recently because the de-extinction company Colossal is actually thinking of focusing on the thylacine as well, and there's like a lot of money being put into it. Again, ethically, de-extinction in real life is a minefield, and honestly, there's a lot to be considered there. Primarily the welfare of the animals themselves. Are they going to have a good quality of life? That sort of thing. And unless those things can be assured, I'm never going to truly think that it's, I don't know, it's just not in the animal's best interest, I suppose, at the end of the day. So it's one of those things that's just, there's so much to be debated and so much to be discussed about it, but that's a whole conversation for another time. But because it has been talked about recently, that'd be cool to just, you know, put a thylacine in here, give it an amazing habitat, and give it some thought, and put an animal in here that's kind of like potentially in real life got a shot at coming back, which is a weird thought, and a thought that's kind of both, I don't know, it's hopeful in some ways, it's scary in others. There's just so much to be discussed in that field, and at the end of the day, you know, if it happens or not, like, it's an amazing animal that really didn't deserve to face extinction at our hands, and it's just, yeah, it's an animal worth celebrating regardless. But aside from that, the other plans for this park include a big kind of central facility, which I'd like to make kind of in the similar style to what we've done so far with the wood and the thatch. I think that'll end up looking quite nice. Kind of, I'm thinking, you see where that cliff goes up to the front of the habitat, somewhere there, I think, and then we can have a bridge from the viewing platform, go to another viewing platform, and go into that building, and kind of connect across the park like that. Oh, and here's where I decided to go a little bit ham with the grasses in this habitat. These mammoths would have lived on kind of like large kind of grassland environments all across the Pleistocene. Actually, I'm not sure how long they were alive for. Yeah, I think quite a long time, probably at least 500,000 years, if not more, maybe, or maybe even less. I'm not sure, to be honest. But yeah, they probably lived in these large kind of grassy plains, and that means that, well, not that means, basically I want to represent that in this habitat by giving it lots of really long grass and bushy grass, but of course still make sure that it still feels like we're in this kind of like arid environment that we're in. So I had some cacti here and there, some of these doom palms, which I think look really nice. These umpingo trees, which I think are very much something I underutilized before, but I'm really loving them now. I say before, I believe they came out with the conservation pack, so I haven't had any chance to use them anyways, so yeah. A few more supports up there. But I think the grasses all look really good. I'm definitely going to explore arid foliage a bit more with this park. I rarely ever have had the chance to explore kind of more arid or deserty foliage in my previous parks, so I'm really glad to have that chance now and try a very new building style, I suppose. Speaking of my other parks, I don't actually know when I'm going to go back into them. I promise October Lake isn't like dead. I'm going to finish it. It only has like 3 or 4 more episodes to go anyways. But I think I might want to finish this park completely, remove my mods, then go back to October Lake and finish that up. And then if I want to do another modded park, I will come back in with mods, because I want to keep them a bit separate just in case like there's any transfer between, because obviously with things like October Lake, I would like other people to be able to go into that save file and play it, and I don't want to accidentally use a mod or something. I don't even know if that's how it works. It might be completely fine, so I'll kind of see how it goes, and I'll speak to people and learn kind of like what that entails in terms of like mods in and out of a park and stuff like that. So we'll figure that out and see how that goes. We're coming up pretty close to the end now. One final part of the build is to build a bit of an elephant house. So you need a pretty large shelter for a large animal like this, obviously. In a lot of zoos, elephant houses are kind of intertwined with the guest-facing side of the habitat. So you'd have, for example, the elephant shelter on one level, and then you have a guest level kind of surrounding the second floor almost. And then the guests could look down into the shelter and see the elephant resting. Same goes for a lot of other large mammals. They do that with giraffes as well. In this one, I kind of wanted to do something like that at first, and then I just decided against it because it was getting a bit complex, and I think I was just getting a little bit tired of the habitat. Not in a bad way, I was just kind of like building for ages, and I was like, yeah, ready to move on. So I might go back and add that second layer in for staff to be able to walk in, look at the animals, and head back out quite quickly. Again, in hindsight, it would have been so much better to build this in a much larger map. I would have loved to give a lot more space to this shelter and really like build it in a lot more detail. So, you know, I would have liked that chance, but it is what it is, and I'm pretty happy with what we have here. Just building some very large steel doors, which I think end up looking pretty okay. I never know what to do when it comes to like locks on doors or anything like that. I always just feel like I just end up putting a few random like bits and bobs on and hope it looks vaguely decent. Like here I try to come up with like a sliding lock mechanism, and I think it just ends up looking kind of like, it's fine. You know, doesn't look super great. But it doesn't have to. All it has to look like is that it's vaguely functional, because at the end of the day they are just props. They're not meant to look particularly great. The shelter itself I think ends up looking pretty okay. I add in obviously a roof because they need a roof, and then I add in a cage feeder, which I know it's only for giraffe, but it just looks like such a great prop to put in there, and it looks like utilitarian and like something you would see in a habitat like this. So I just put that in there. Loads and loads of hay bedding. Straw bedding I think is the proper term if I'm not mistaken. I think they use straw bedding in most zoos, not hay bedding. So straw bedding, and then got to put in the actual roof in a sec. I'm using the brand new corrugated pieces from the Outback pack, which are fantastic. They're recolorable, which I love. And it ends up looking pretty nice, I think. It's not a particularly complex roof, it's pretty chill, so I think it ends up looking quite cool. Anyways, I hope you've all enjoyed this episode. Do let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Do put down any suggestions you have, which future animals, future habitats. I hope you enjoyed, the Colombian mammoth today. You'll see them in the cinematics, and I think in the next video we might do a little live like tour of the park so far, show you the animals, talk a bit more about them, because I do love talking about extinct animals. There's so much cool stuff to learn about them. Like Colombian mammoth, I've actually barely talked about it, even though I think there's a lot of cool stuff. Like there's a lot of really cool cave art that depicts potentially Colombian mammoths, and really interesting things like that, and its relationship with people at the time. And yeah, basically there's so much stuff there which I'd like to talk about, which maybe I'll do in like a live tour of the park. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!